Megaman, the Blue Bomber, and if you want to raise some eyebrows, Rockman. His name in Japan is Rockman, and it's supposed to be a reference to the music genre, with his sister being called Ro. You know, rock and roll? Most of the characters in Mega Man have some reference to music in their Japanese name. Proto Man is called Blue, boom bam ba ding boom ba doom boom ba dam ba ding ba doom. And Bass is called Forte, which is considered the loud or strong part in music. It kind of reminds me of how the Saiyans in Dragon Ball Z are named after vegetables. People's first play with Mega Man is usually the original Mega Man or Mega Man X. For me, it was the Mega Man pet toy. I don't exactly remember how it worked. It came with that phone thingy and some chips you put into it to fight viruses. I believe it was a pedometer since I kept shaking the fuck out of it for something to happen. Then I got the Battle Network games on the Gameboy. That was 10 times better. The game we're looking at today is the continuation of the story for the first game. But most people will have skipped it because it's on a completely different console and completely different gameplay. But the question is, should people continue to skip it? Let's see. Like I said before, this game is a sequel to the first game. After beating the World Wide Web, how dare you destroy the internet? Oh, hail the World Wide Web. Then, it only took 1 month before something else happened. Like, come on guys, keep your shit together. The world is having a pandemic, but for the pet Navis, which is an AI they have on their phone. It causes the Navis to lose control of themselves and not listen to their owners. Mega Man finds out about this and they go to investigate. The gameplay is like a mash between the original Mega Man and the Battle Network games. A platformer with a card system. This definitely piqued my interest. I don't know of many or any game that combines these two elements. The implementation sadly was not the best. They just replaced Mega Man's power copy ability with the chip system in Battle Network. If you play Battle Network, it works exactly like that game. You have a deck or stack of 20 different chips you can use. You can only have 5 different chips equipped on you at any time. In order to get or draw 5 more from your stack or deck, you have to wait until this bar is filled back up. Levels have a pretty simple platforming sections and the same structure. Usually 2 sections followed by a boss fight. Enemies block your path and you got a buster cannon and chips to defeat them. The buster cannon is probably the most pathetic thing I've ever seen in my life. This thing takes forever to kill. Regular enemies take like 10 hits from this thing. It's just me shooting enemies off screen or shooting at their ankles. These enemies take way too long to kill, especially since they're just regular enemies. This was probably done to emphasize being able to level up Mega Man. There are 3 ways to level him up: his shot power, charge speed, and fire rate. To upgrade them, you have to find specific chips that will let you upgrade any of the 3. You find them throughout the stage and usually require you to do some challenging platform or use a specific chip. Chips in this game are overpowered. They do massive amounts of damage and have a variety of effects. The game balances this by giving you a mana meter and only lets you use them if you have the appropriate amount of mana available. The more powerful the chip, the more mana it uses. The mana will regenerate over time, but this stops you from spamming it. On top of having a mana meter, each chip has a certain amount of times you can use them per level. If you only have 5 of a certain chip, you can only use them 5 times on this level. Luckily they will replenish after you beat or leave the level. One thing that annoyed me was that they seem to put certain items in places that you not be able to reach unless you have a certain chip. You have to use up one of your slots to get a specific item, and the utility chips are few and far between. You only get 1 or 2 unless you grind for them somehow, and if you don't have it equipped, you have to wait for the bar to fill up. It was most likely added this way to give the players a reason to replay the levels and find new things. But I found it more frustrating waiting to see if I could get one chip I had that was necessary, or finding and knowing I already used my one chip for something else before. Since the Buster Cannon is so pathetic, your best way to deal with everything is with chips, especially against bosses. Boss fights will end in seconds if you don't know what to do. They have a very simple pattern for you to memorize, except Brightman. He has a shield that goes down in one hit, and you have to immediately hit him after to do damage on him, or the shield automatically regenerates. It's a very annoying strategy to try to figure out. The game tries to balance bosses killing you right away by reviving you right outside the boss rooms and giving the player a good amount of extra lives. I was able to end the game by having 7 extra lives per level. They also allow you to use what I think is the best utility in the game: sub chips. These chips, unlike regular chips, can be used anytime from the pause menu. There are a handful of sub chips and they regenerate a certain amount of health to regenerating your mana. This is very helpful against bosses, because if you're fighting a boss and you both are close to death, you can pull out that move they love to do where they regenerate all their health after defeating them. Yeah, let's go now, bitch. However, when the game giveth, it taketh away. When you're revived outside of the boss rooms to retry, your chips will not replenish after death. If you used up all your best chips in a fight and lose, you can retry again, but with none of those chips. I ended up using my first few lives just trying to get the boss fight pattern down without using any of my resources, and then throwing everything against the wall when I thought I had a good chance of defeating them. Sub chips are a one-time use. If you use them, they're gone, whether you die or even leave the level. Luckily, they can be bought in the shop. Sadly, they're very expensive. Shops are found in the overworld, and the map was taken straight from the Battle Network game. From here, you pick different locations and people's houses to jack in from to go to different levels. Sounds a little bit sus to go to someone's house and be like, "Hello neighbor, do you mind if I jack inside your house?" There are 3 different areas you can jack into besides the levels you play through. You could jack into the park, but you can refight every boss fight you fought before. I'm sure you can get something off of jacking into here, but I never bothered. The bosses are hard and bothersome to fight. Next, you jack into Higsby's shop to buy chips and sub chips. Sadly, there isn't much of a reason to jack into the shop besides sub chips. Sub chips are the main reason I jack into the shop. They are so good and overpowering. And finally, your own bedroom. This one's kinda bland. Nothing really happens in here, so there isn't much of a reason to jack in here. Lan will walk around the room mindlessly like he just sent the riskiest text of his life and is waiting for a response. Also, whenever you defeat a boss, you get a little statue of them in the room. That's so cute. Not much going on here besides it being a trophy room and this suspicious poster. Looks like he's jacking in as well, if you know what I mean. The game is not difficult if you use your sub chips at the right moment, until you reach the last level of the game. It takes this spike in difficulty. I know the last level should be harder than the rest of the game, but it gets a little ridiculous. The first level has enemies that block your way and are immune to 90% of your attacks. They have a shield that can only be taken down with a chip that has an opposite elemental damage to their chip, or an attack that does 100 damage or more. Not an accumulation of 100 damage, but one big attack that does at least 100 damage. There are not a lot of chips that do 100 damage, and the ones you do have, you probably have a few only. And having a bunch of weak different elemental damage chips kind of clogs your limited deck. I decided to go with the 100 plus damage strategy, since I could buy 8 water swords that do exactly 100 damage. Not only did I use the sword, but also armor chips to walk through certain areas without having to use all my powerful chips. Next, you have to face the mid boss, which is a firewall. You know, it makes sense, but it's kind of cheesy, right? Once you get rid of the weapons, it's just a grind to kill them. Next is the obligatory boss rush. You don't have to fight every boss you fought before, but it does show you how much you have progressed. They're much easier to kill since you do more damage now. Luckily, if you die mid-boss rush, you restart from the last boss you were fighting. After the boss rush, you get all your chips replenished. That's nice. And then you fight the final boss. This guy takes up way too much screen. Of course, he also has a shield, meaning you have to get lucky in getting that elemental chip you need each time, or use one of your stronger chips just to get rid of that shield, which regenerates to a different elemental shield. I would probably not been able to beat him without the sub chips to refill my MP and HP. After that, he has a second form. His attacks drop you to 1 health, with a second one killing you, and touching him is an instant kill. His pattern is pretty simple, and he's not the hardest enemy, but the adrenaline of defeating his bigger form kind of made me do some mistake, which causes me to restart the whole fight a couple of times. I was very interested in this game when I learned it was two great Megamans combined into one. However, there's a reason this is the only game like this. I don't think the way the two mechanics of the game were fused was any good. It feels like the chip system was thrown to a regular Mega Man game and was made relevant by nerfing the regular Mega Man mechanics. The platforming is very simple, no copy abilities, and a pathetic Buster Cannon, with the chip system being too strong and balanced with 2 meters to keep it in check, and even a limit on each chip. Sub-chips tip the scale greatly in your favor, and it felt like a crutch to the odd difficulty the game had. I didn't have a terrible time, but I don't see the merit of anyone going out of the way to play this game. I hope you enjoyed today's video. It took some time for it to come out, but I'm happy it's out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and like and subscribe if you want to see more. But as always, my beautiful patients, I thank you so much for watching, and tune in next time.